Hello friends. So what we're going to do today is we're going to write a method that hashtags all given words in a string. Example will be we're given random words, we're expecting random words with a hashtag in front of each word. Now this is used in a lot of social media development, so it's useful in that regard. Also, it's kind of a coding interview question. It's a fairly popular one. And so what I'll do is go over all of the elements within writing it. I'll even write the tests and things like that. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to want to do is require uh, Rspec. Then, so once we have that required, let's go ahead and write our test. And we'll just call this hashtagger the method that we're going to write. Do end, and what are we going to want it to do? It should hashtag all words in a given string and return a string. Alright, cool. So we'll just have a str variable, and we'll just have random words given, and we'll go expect str.hashtagger .to eq hashtag random hashtag words hashtag given. Okay, so we've got our test written and we've required Rspec. First thing to do is run that Rspec hashtagger rb, and we get some failures. So that's what you always want to do. You want to write your tests, you want to run them, and you want to make them fail before you start writing any code. So, and they'll, when you're on job interviews and stuff, you want to go through this process. So now that we have our test written, that's good. Now let's talk about what we're going to do. Let's say that we have random words given, and we're going to set that to an str. We're going to set that to the variable str. So what we want to do is somehow break apart all these words. Then we want to put hashtags in front of each one of these words. Then we want to join these words back together in a string. That's fairly straightforward. So just order of operations, break apart words, add hashtags, and then join words into new string. Right? So that's the three things that we're going to want to do. So let's figure out how to do that. Let's go into IRB right here. And let's say that we have an str variable here of random words. Okay, so str.split. What does that do? That splits apart the words. Cool. So now that we have the words split into array, you'll notice that it's an array with two strings in it, or the amount of words that you have. Individual words will be strings, elements within the array. So once we have that split, we'll go a way to iterate over each element in this array and add something to it or take something away from it. You want to map over those elements. So the .map method is really good for that. And then we'll go .map do, and we'll use an e as our incrementing as our variable for our elements. So to add a hashtag, we would just go double quotes, hashtag, curly braces, another double quote, and then put our e in there. So what this is doing is, however long you've been doing Ruby, you know this, with the hashtag curly braces with the variable inside of it, that interpolates that word. So now this word is here, and we're just adding a hashtag in front of it. That's why we have two hashtags. You have to do this in You have to do this in double quotes. If you do it in single quotes, it's not going to work. So that, and then we can go end, and what does that do? Okay, cool. So now we have an array with all this code. That's giving us an array with two hashtags in front of each element. So now we need to join all that back. So a way to do that would be to use the .join method. So I'm gonna have to write all this shit out again. Split.map do e double quote hashtag interpolate e another double quote end, and then you can just use the .join method at the end, and join takes an argument. We'll do it join at the spaces, and let's see what this does. Cool, gives us back a string random words, and they're both hashtagged. So that should work. So if you notice in our test, we're calling this hashtagger method on a string object. So that tells me that we're going to have to crack open our string class, string, and write this in the class, which is fine. So it'll just be hashtagger. It'll take no arguments because it's being called on a string object. And so since in our test, you'll see that we have a string variable set up down here to test for. So we're calling the hashtagger method on the string variable that we have. Well, instead of having a variable, when you're doing it in a class, when you're writing a class method, you can just put self, and that will act as any string that's passed in. So any string that's passed in, we want to self.split.map do, and we're just basically copying code that we've already written. Double quotes, 2 hashtags, up. See, that's going to mess it up because of the autocomplete there. So let's work that. So now we have a hashtag and then interpolation of E. Then we'll end that again, and then here we'll just drop the .join method here, join at the spaces. So this should all work. I'm going to get rid of this. We've broken apart the words, we've added the hashtag, and we joined the words into a new string. So let's save that, and then let's run our test. Let's get out of this. And let's go rspec hashtag.rb. One example, 0 failures. All right. So that's how you do that. We've cracked open the string class. We wrote a method in that class. We used self, and we wrote our tests. So my phone's ringing. So yeah, hope y'all enjoyed it. Take it easy.